Okay, looks like the stream is ready. So today's topic will be part 2 of the itemization guide. And there are two parts that I want to cover in this video, two major segments. The first one will be how to build your itemization path properly. Because due to item tree, okay, we are talking about the item tree and the itemization path. The second thing that I'm going to show you will be in game, where I try to buy the items, pre-order the items. And there must be a sequence to which you pre-order the item. Okay, so the sequence in which you build your build is really important. You make your build is really important. So let's go to Ilandor, for example. Okay, I have a few item path here to show you. So Claves, if you take a look at this, why is my item built this way? Alright, this thing is obviously the first item because Ilandor is played in the jungle. And then you go to Claves. Okay, Claves needs 3 small items, 1 tier 2 item and 2 tier 1 items to form the claves. Okay, so it needs 3 item slots filled before you can buy the item. Okay, and this item is fine, these 3 items are fine because there's no item that actually needs 3 smaller items to build into. But for your 4th slot, it starts to become a bit hairy, because if you take a look at the item tree, you'll find that this item also take 3 slots. Okay, 3 smaller stuff before you can build the full item. And then once you build the clave, you'll find that all your this item slots over here are filled before you can buy the bowl of slaughter. Okay, and if you go to the aegis over here, you can see that this requires 3 stuff to build into the aegis. However, one of them is only 220 gold, so the gold value of this is really low, of this lapis ring. Also, it's not really useful, okay, because you buy Aegis not really for the mana, but for the cooldown reduction and also the armor that it provides. So only these 2 items at the front are really useful. So there's no point in building this item, okay. So this is why I place Aegis at the second last slot, because I can fill the last 2 item slots, okay, up with these 2 more important items. And last one will be a devil handshake. And why they are put there's rarely any items that requires 1 item before it can be built into a full item. Okay, the most classic example will be this one. Okay, the Blade of Eternity, because it requires 2 items, but the light armor is really low in gold value. So you can just build a cleaving claymore, and then you find that you only have a 1500 gold empty window period before you build into a full item. So empty window period is basically my way of saying you get no items during this empty window period duration. Okay, you get no items until before you upgrade to the full item, and I call this period the empty window period. Alright, so this is what I'm going to refer to in the future. I have a video talking about this, but I've never showed it actually in detail. So now here I am showing you guys in detail. So this is what I built my build. If you take a look at the item tree, you can see that it requires 2 items to build the devil handshake. Okay, this item costs 780 gold. So my last item slot is going to be filled with a 780 gold item, and the 420 gold item is going to be ignored. Okay, so that's fine because 420 gold is quite low in gold value. So it's fine if I miss out the item in my item slots. Okay, let's go to another hero. Let's go to assassin, because this is also a very classic example. Let's go to Quick Neck. Alright, why is Omni Arms? Okay, these 3 items are fine. Okay, the 3 items are not affected by item slots at all. But why is Omni Arms instead of the Fenrir's Tooth being the 3rd last item? It's because if you go to item tree, Omni Arms take 3 smaller items to build into Omni Arms, which means that you are utilizing all your item slots, okay, to form all these smaller items before you build into a tier 3 item. So that your empty window period is the least, you get the least amount of empty window period. Okay, if you go to a Fenrir's Tooth, which is the 2nd last item, and you go to item 3, you will find that there's also 2 smaller slots, okay, before you can build into Fenrir's Tooth. And that is why it's placed at the 2nd last spot, okay, so that you can make use of all your inventory slots. And for the last item, I tend to go for a medallion or shield of the lost, but that doesn't really matter. Yeah, it depends on the situation. Most of the time I go for medallion of Troy or shield of the lost. Okay, this item, like, you can also build a very popular build will be this also, because it will give you the least amount of empty window period, because you get 910 gold item as your last slot, which is the highest tier 2 gold item. So your empty window period will be quite low. This is a very popular last item slot. Okay, so another trick to your item build path will be something like this. Alright, so now that I finished the talk on the empty window period, let's do another example before we jump into another concept. Alright, let's jump into, I don't know, 10. Okay, why is the Shield of the Lost? Okay, this is another weird example. Alright, okay, just use this example. Why do I build Shield of the Lost instead of something like Mail Pin? Okay, as a second last item. So if you take a look at my build, the first 4 items are fine. Okay, and if you take a look at my this Gaia standard, why is it the third last item? Because if you go to item tree, you find that there's 3 smaller components. But that's besides the point. The main point that I want to drive across is the Shield of the Lost. Okay, why do I use it instead of the Mail Pin? If you go to the item tree of the Shield of the Lost, you can see that it builds from 2 smaller items, but they are all tier 2 items. Okay, and you find that you will utilize all your remaining slots before you form it into a tier 3 item. But if you go to something like Mail Pin, you find that it's built from 2 tier 1 items and 1 tier 3 items. So what this is going to mean is your last 2 slots here is going to be filled with a Gifts of Protection, which is the same as the Shield of the Lost, but instead of getting a Knight's Plate, you are getting a light armor. See, you are getting a light armor to fill up your last slot. So you are losing out a bit on armor. Okay, and your empty window period is going to be longer for this Mail Pin. And that's very detrimental, because you are not having enough item slots to fill up all the available tier 1 item necessary to build this item. And that will cost you a bit of stats in the game. Okay, the next concept that I will drive across. Okay, so we have the Assassin, and this is why Omni Arms is super popular to build in the third last slot, and Furious Tooth is in the second last slot. It's because of the item tree. Okay, for Assassins, generally, you have this layout. Okay, let's go to the tank. Okay, the idea is to build Shield of the Lost instead of the Mail Pin, because the item tree build path is a bit better. If you want to build the Mail Pin, you either put it at the last tree slot. Okay, you either form it at the 4th item, because it allows you to hold all of these lesser items in your slots. Okay, either that or you form it at the last slot. Okay, at where you're building the item at the last slot. Okay, why is this the case? It's because this item is the most important item. Okay, these 2 items are really low in gold value. So if you build this item in your last slot, it doesn't matter if you lose out on these 2 light armor, because it won't give you enough stats. But why is this quite bad? Okay, if you build it this way, it's because this thing gives you 300 armor. Okay, but if you only buy this item as your last slot, you are getting the HP, but you are completely ignoring the armor. And armor is generally preferred over HP. Okay, it's because it gives more damage reduction. Damage reduction is more important than raw HP stats, because if you have healing skills that heal you, damage reduction synergize very well with it. Okay, if you are continuously getting damage reduction and also healing, then you are basically unkillable. Alright, instead of raw HP. Okay, so now that we finished this, so we cover Assassin tanks. Okay, we'll cover Marksman also. Marksman, let's see. Let's go to Caphony. Alright, so why am I building the item this way? Okay, Caphony is a weird example. I've talked about Elandor. I want to show you guys another example. Elandor. Oh, I don't have Elandor just yet. Okay, so just to reiterate again, this AG has 2 important items, which is why it's the second last slot. This has 3 important items. Even though this is low in gold value, it gives you lifesteal, and you need lifesteal to sustain. Alright, so this is my third last item. Okay, let's go to another Marksman. Laville. Okay, so again, this Bow of Slaughter, I build it as the third last item because it has 3 slots. It requires 3 slots. And for these 2, they form into Aegis. Okay, if you go to an Aegis build path, they form into Aegis, which is why I'm pre-ordering 2 smaller items, and I'll manually go into the game to form the Aegis. Alright, so I did not actually complete my item tree. my inventory build, I did not complete it. I make sure to get these two smaller items in my tree, and I'll form it into an aegis manually in the game. Okay, this will give me an empty slot in my last slot, and I will decide what to buy in this item slot. Usually I go for Muramasa, but it depends on the situation. Okay, so now I will jump on to another concept. Now that you have an idea of what item tree is and what empty window period is, let's jump on to another concept. Okay, so this is my quick neck. Go to my quick neck build. Okay, you can see that I have a smaller item here. I have a tier 2 item here. Why is that the case? Okay, it's because the build, it will form this item first, then it will form this item, then it will form this item, and then when you get to this item, I already have one of the smaller item component of this, because if you take a look at item 3, the astral spear is part of the item requirement, which is why you don't necessarily will buy another astral spear to form this item. The system will automatically detect that you have this in your inventory, and it will form it into this. Okay, so basically your Muramasa is actually replacing this astral spear in your build. Okay, this way you have a one last slot empty, okay, to form whatever custom build you want. Okay, I do this to counter the enemy in the game itself, because if the enemy have more magic damage, they will build medallion. So if they are assassin is a 0, I'll go for medallion. If they are assassin is somebody like a Zephyrus, or they have a lot of AD, then I'll go for Shield of the Lost. Okay, so this is a good example because a rank breaker has been nerfed recently. So maybe some people might not want to build into rank breaker right after it's been nerfed, so they might consider astral spear instead, because the armor reduction that it gives is not reduced, unlike rank breaker, which is why people are preferring rank breaker and people are preferring Muramasa over rank breaker. Okay, and you can get this item just to get you through the early game, because you need some armor tiers. Okay, so another example will be I chance upon another one. Okay, the tin. Okay, I'm building this Knight's Plate first, and I have Shield of the Lost as the last item. Why is that the case? It's because Knight's Plate is the required items for the Shield of the Lost, and for Shield of the Lost, the idea is that you want the armor, the 360 armor. The 1200 HP is really good, but the armor is more important than HP. So I'm focusing only on the armor component by buying the Knight's Plate. Okay, because if you buy the Gifts of Protection just by itself, even though it's higher in gold value, okay, if you take a look at Shield of the Lost, you see that Knight's Plate is 210, this is 900, and it's a high gold value. But just getting HP stats without any armor means you are really like weak. Okay, so I rather get armor than get the HP, and this is why I want to form the Shield of the Lost. But instead of like building the HP component, I completely ignore the HP component first. Okay, and I build my core item, which is the Spear of Longinus, before I complete this item. Okay, so what is going to happen is that the first 3 items is self-explanatory. Then I will build this item. Then I will have 2 slots available from the Longinus, which is perfect, because if you go to look at the item tree, only 2 of the items here are important. The last item is not exactly that important, and the gold value is kind of low. Okay, the HP item, you only want the cooldown reduction and you want the armor pierce. Okay, and you can just ignore the 3rd slot. So this is why I leave 2 slots to build the item into. Okay, and the last one, I will have 1 slot available, 1 final slot available. This final slot will be taken up by the Gifts of Protection. Okay, so your final thing is going to look something like this. Okay, look something like this. And then your system, the item bar is going to suggest you the Shield of the Lost. Okay, it will pop up in the item bar, and then you press on the Shield of the Lost, and you are basically forming it into something like this. Okay, your item build will be like this, and that leaves me an empty slot. Okay, to build whatever item I want, to pre-order whatever item I want, to counteract the enemy in the game. Usually I go for Blade of Eternity. Okay, but because that's the standard for the last item. But there can be some other situation, I'm not sure. Maybe the enemy has a really a lot of magic attack, then I'll go for Gaia standard. Okay, so this is just an example, but just to show you that you can build both tier 2 and tier 3 item in your build. Okay, and this item will actually form into this item instead of the system suggesting to you another knight's plate. Alright, so let's jump into a game and show you guys another concept. So this ends the part 1 of this video, the first segment of this video, which is item 3 and empty window period. Next will be jumping into a game itself. Alright, I will go to practice. I'll use like somebody on aircraft. Okay, I use sprint on aircraft, which is really bad. Don't ever use sprint. Oh my god. Okay, I need to rejoin the game because restart the game because I need the punish to build my jungle items, or else the item slot is going to be messed up. Okay, by the way, I got the AIC skin from just like 1 free roll, so yeah. I don't really use Necroft anyways. I don't think he's such a good hero, but it's very flashy. Okay, let's take punish on him. Okay, Necroft, usually this enchantment is a standard. Okay, and instead of the Arctic Op, you always want the enhanced restore, because it's overpowered in this version. Okay, so I'm going to use this build. It doesn't matter, the enemy doesn't matter, because I'm not going to fight him. I'm just going to show you what actually goes on. Okay, I'm going to get some initial goal. Okay, so you can let's sell this. Alright, there is a problem with this thing that needs to be improved. Okay, sorry if the microphone is bad because I'm actually holding my phone and my thumb might be blocking my microphone port, so there might be a bit of static. So why is buying this item quite bad? Okay, take a look at my item build. My next item I want to form will be the Omni Arms. Okay, but instead of building a more important item, I built the Chain Hammer instead. Okay, instead of building the Arcane Hammer, because if you go take a look at the item tree of the Omni Arms, you can see that this Arcane Hammer has more gold value than this. So you want to first build Arcane Hammer, then build the Chain Hammer, and lastly you want to build the Ring of Vitality. So the correct option here, in fact, you don't need breaker. So let me get a bit more gold first. Okay, I will farm out a bit first so that I can show you what's going on. Sorry, this process is a bit weird. Okay, so now you go take a look at my item tree. Okay, my next item will be the Omni Arms. Alright, and I want to build this item. It requires 2 tier 1 items, which is a short sword and the dagger. But what happens now? Okay, I'm going to farm up a little bit. Okay. Okay, let's buy a short sword. Okay, it will suggest you to use the dagger. Okay, so right now it's all good. Okay, you have 200 gold until you get the Arcane Hammer for the Omni Arms. Okay, I need a blue buff. I'm running out of mana. You really want the blue buff as Necroft? Okay, never mind. It suggests the Arcane Hammer to me. Okay, there are some situations where the Arcane Hammer is not being suggested to you. Okay, then instead of getting the short sword, you will get the Chain Hammer because it's the second highest gold component needed to build the Omni Arms. So you'll press this instead of the short sword. And then your last item should be the HP item. You'll you'll get the HP item. Okay, and then your last item will be the Omni Arms in the item suggestion bar. Sorry if my Necroft is not really good because I'm holding the phone in a very weird way so that the microphone port is actually I'm holding it in a weird way so that the microphone port is open and I can record my voice properly. And I'm trying to minimize the amount of shaking on my phone so that there isn't as much static noises. So I'm holding the phone in a really weird manner and that's affecting my gameplay a little bit. Okay, so your next item are Omni Arms. So you can see you are utilizing all the item slots. Okay, so your next item with the Farrier's Tooth. Alright. Actually, let's skip this part because I think it's understandable now, the concept of the item tree and the empty window period. So what happens if I build the Blade of Eternity over the Farrier's Tooth? Okay, so I'm going to give myself some go. Okay, I will get this and this. Alright, you find that I've completed these two items, but keep in mind this light armor has very little gold value. So building it in your item slots is kind of a waste. Alright, let's farm up a bit until I get the full item. Okay, let's just give myself some gold. Okay, that's good. Now you want your Farrier's Tooth, right? What happens when you buy it this time? You find that your last item, you don't have another space for the next Clipping Claymore, the second Clipping Claymore. So your empty window period will be 2040 gold, which is a huge amount. Alright, and that is why you always never want to build Farrier's Tooth before your Blade of Eternity. Okay, I didn't actually get to show you guys the bug that I wanted to show you. Alright, next, let's jump into another build. Okay, never mind, let's jump into another build. Okay, so the bug that I want to show you was the Omni Arms bug. I didn't actually manage to do it because sometimes the Omni Arms build, the sequence that the item, the system suggests the item to you is not correct. Okay, sometimes you don't form the correct tier 2 item. Next, I will jump it into the tailing gameplay. Okay, I'll show you the difference between getting Shield of the Lost and getting the medallion. The Mail of Pain. And keep in mind, I always have an empty slot, and it's always a good idea to use that concept at the highest level of gameplay, because it will allow you to adapt to an enemy's composition. Okay, next, this will be my build. Let's see what happens when I use this build. Okay, this strange build where I combine both tier 2 items and tier 3 items. Let's use this one. Okay, I'll give myself a bit of gold. Okay. Also another concept that I've talked about in my earlier video. My first build is for a normal composition, normal enemy composition where the AD is very high. The second build is for the enemy composition where the magic damage is very high. The third build is for situations where the enemy has a generally a balanced composition. Okay. So what is good about this build? This build is that your cooldown reduction will get to 40% fastest. Okay, you will get the highest amount of cooldown reduction. Because why? This Medallion of Troy, it will give you 10% cooldown speed. Okay, take a look at the item tree. It will give you 10% cooldown, but there's no item in the item tree that gives you 10% cooldown. Alright, so while we are forming this item, while we are forming the Medallion of Troy, you don't have the 10% cooldown speed in your build. So the bad thing about this is that your cooldown reduction at the start will be very low. But the good thing about the third build is that your cooldown reduction will be 10 plus 10, okay, plus 15, and you add the Valiance Arcana, and which is 6% cooldown, and you get 41 cooldown. So you go beyond the 40 max limit. So this will ensure you get maximum cooldown reduction at the start before you build the Medallion of Troy. And after getting a Medallion of Troy, okay, your cooldown will be over the limit, right? Because you don't need the additional cooldown. Your cooldown is already 51%. Okay, so I will actually sell the platinum gauntlet into a Knight's Plate. Okay, I will sell this into a Knight's Plate, and then this Knight's Plate is a needed component for the Shield of the Lost. Okay, so imagine this platinum gauntlet over here will become a Knight's Plate. Okay, and essentially this third build will become the same as your second build. Okay, so the idea for these two builds is the same, to counter a magic heavy composition, but this item will give me more cooldown at the start in case I need to spend my skills. Right, so okay, let's use this because it's a more interesting example. Let's use this. Alright, let's give myself some gold. Okay, I'll form the from the Spirit of Longinus. So you can take a look at my cooldown. My cooldown speed is 40% because I'm over the limit of the cooldown. My cooldown is 41%. Okay, so 6% from a Karma, plus 10, 26, plus 15, so that's 41. And then you go to your Medallion of Troy. Okay, you can see that it's 10% cooldown. Okay, but then this item over here does not have any cooldown in it. So I need a bit of an empty window period before I get the Medallion of Troy. Okay, so once I get Medallion of Troy, alright, my next item will be a Knight's Plate. Alright, and I'll buy the Knight's Plate. So what's going to happen now? What's going to happen is that okay, the Knight's Plate shouldn't be suggested to me. This is a bug. Oh, never mind. It should be suggested to me because it's needed for a Shield of the Lost. Okay, forget what I said. So I'm going to sell this platinum gauntlets over here. Okay, I'm going to sell it. In the actual game, I'm going to wait till I have enough gold. Okay, so I'm going to farm up a bit just to show you guys in more detail. Just to do it step by step. Okay, I didn't know that the Xenial Ultimate can cancel my Tain push, but okay. Damn it. Almost killed that guy. Okay, so I have 710 gold now, but no item is being suggested to me, the item suggestion bar, because all my inventory slots are filled. So all I have to do is sell the platinum gauntlets, and my cooldown will still remain at 40%. Right now my cooldown is 51%, so it shows you my max cooldown. Okay, then I will sell this, and then you take a look at my cooldown, it's still 40%. Alright, because I've done the math earlier, 10% plus 15 plus 10 plus 6, okay, 41. And after that, I'll buy the Grease of Protection. And this is actually needed for the Shield of the Lost. Alright, so now you go look at the item tree. I have both components for the Shield of the Lost. So I only need a 470 gold empty window period, which is super little. Okay, let me try to get some gold. Okay, this Xeno is being annoying. So the good thing about having a lot of cooldown reduction is that you can chain CC somebody. At max level, right now it's impossible. But then you'll be very mana hungry. Okay, so now in this situation, I'll take a look at the enemy composition and I'll determine which item to pre-order. Remember to pre-order or else no item will appear in your item bar because your build lacks an additional slot. Okay, so the item that I pre-order usually will be Blood of Eternity. So immediately after I get the Shield of the Lost suggested to me, I buy it, then I will pre-order something. Okay, I can pre-order Blade of Eternity usually, but in case there's very high magic damage, or in case the magic assassin there is really fat, somebody like Pain, you have a really fat Pain for some reason, and his teammates are like 0 and 6, so he's the only fat guy on the enemy team. In those kind of special situation, I'll go for Gaia Standard. Usually I'll go for the Blade of Eternity, or maybe the AD on their team is extremely fat, then I'll go for Aegis. Sorry, not Aegis. Then I'll go for Mail of Pain. And Mail of Pain is really good as the last item slot because it will give you only need this Geese of Protection because these two light armor are low in gold value. So you always want the Mail of Pain to be either the third last slot or the last slot. Right, so if the AD is very fat, then I'll get a Mail of Pain. So you can see the light armor not being suggested to me because Ring of Vitality has a higher gold value. Okay, I click on it. And the Grease of Protection will be suggested to me. Yeah. So you can see that I'm making good use of my item slots. Okay. I'm ignoring these two smaller useless components. Okay. And my empty window period is the minimal amount. Okay, which is 1000. 1,000 gold is kind of acceptable. Okay, it's quite a lot, but it's acceptable anti-window period, especially when you already got to your last slot. Okay, so I think this wraps up the end of the itemization guide. Okay, I hope you learned a lot from how you can make your build. Okay, you don't necessarily always have to one fixed build. A lot of beginners always use one fixed build, or even the build that's recommended to you by the system. Okay, don't ever use the build that's recommended to you by the system. Use either the server best build or my build. Okay, so I'm going to show a lot of builds. So the core idea behind all of your build for support, okay, it's different for assassin and support. For support, it's generally quite brain dead. You want Aegis, or you want the Frostcake, or you want the Medallion of Troy. Okay, because why? These items all gives you cooldown reduction. And why is cooldown reduction needed for supports? It's because you don't need to do damage. Okay, if you are assassin like a butterfly, then you don't need a cooldown reduction because you have a skill to reset all your skills. You have passive to reset all your skills, and you need to do damage. Okay, you need to do burst damage, so your AD has to be high. But for supports, their cooldown has to be high because their job is to chain CC and not do damage. Okay, so even if their skills completely do not do damage, they are still going to be very high in utility. Okay, so the support has to keep spamming their skills to provide utility, and things like Aegis is really good because it gives you a lot of mana, so you will not be that mana hungry. It gives you cooldown and it will give you armor. So Aegis is like a core item for all supports. Okay, almost all support benefits from Aegis because the stats that it provides is huge. Okay, so with that, I think I'll end my itemization guide. Hope you enjoy this series, and I'll see you guys more in future videos. I'm not sure what concepts to cover because I've covered the most important concepts, which is the Arcana and the item build path. Okay, I think my last because the thing is all this affects your performance in game, but they don't really give you any map awareness. They don't increase your map awareness, right? They don't increase the amount of knowledge you have about the game. Okay, it increase the amount of like stats that you have in the game. It increase the amount of damage that you can do, the potential damage that you can do, but your overall gameplay still depends on your map awareness. Alright, so I will have a future video doing enchantment. Okay, and that will wrap up the game related concepts. Okay, non-gameplay related concepts. And then after that, after I do the enchantment video, okay, I will focus on what are the responsibilities of every laner. Okay, what are the responsibility of the DS laner, responsibility of the support, responsibility of a marksman. Okay, that video is going to be more controversial because everybody is going to have different thoughts on what a support, what a marksman should do. Alright, but for this item video, enchantment video, and Arcana video, there is not much contention because how do I put this? It's quite like textbook, right? There's no right or wrong. Okay, it's a fact. Okay, because the math, I've done the math behind it, and there's no argument about it. But for your gameplay, the styles of your gameplay really affect how you play the game, right? So there might be a bit of argument to be made over how you should approach the game, because definitely I will have different experiences from everybody here. So if you're a support main, maybe you have more experience than me playing as a support. I doubt it, but maybe your support is somehow better and you have a different view to how a support should play. Okay, so in those cases, the video is really objective, right? Depends on the player's play style. So in those cases, there might be a bit of argument. So that is why I'm doing the itemization video, the enchantment video, and the Arcana video first before I do those. Alright, so hope you enjoyed this series and see you guys in the more videos to come.